It starts like so many stories, doesn't it? A young guy on holiday with mates, music, sun, a beautiful island setting.
Yeah, Tenerife. But then, somewhere along the way, there's a wrong turn. A desperate call for help that just stops.
And then just silence. High up in this incredibly remote, rugged landscape, it's chilling.
Absolutely. What unfolded next was, well, huge. A massive search, intense media focus, the public completely gripped.
And just this tidal wave of online speculation, theories flying everywhere.
Right. Until weeks later, a discovery brought this awful finality. But honestly, it left behind just as many questions, didn't it?
It really did. Okay, let's try and make sense of it all.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're examining the case of 19-year-old Jay Slater, vanished on holiday in Tenerife. We pulled together a lot of material news reports, official statements, research pieces to try and piece together what actually happened.
We want to understand the investigation itself, the process, the challenges, and also look at why this case grabbed so much attention. What does it tell us about how we react to these missing persons stories now?
Our goal here is to walk you through the facts as we know them. It's a complicated story, a lot of noise around it. We want to cut through that, look at the context, and maybe reflect on the bigger picture. It's about this tragedy, yes, but also about how these cases play out in the media, online, in this digital age we're in.
So just to set the scene, young apprentice bricklayer from Lancashire in the UK goes to a music festival, meets some new people.
Ends up in an Airbnb miles away from his friends in a really remote mountain area.
Then he tries to walk back, an 11-hour walk apparently,
Yeah.
and just vanishes.
What followed was this huge search, so much speculation, so many theories, and then eventually the heartbreaking discovery.
Let's start with Jay himself. Who is this young man?
Okay, Jay Slater, 19 years old, an apprentice bricklayer from Oswald Twistle, which is a town up in Lancashire.
And the way his friends and family described him was very consistent, very warm.
Yeah, definitely. You get this clear image of someone really well-loved. They called him a beautiful boy, one of a kind.
I read he was always the happiest and most smiley person.
Exactly. Just a normal, hardworking young lad from Lancashire, they said. Loved by everyone who knew him. Apparently had a real zest for life.
Feels like a typical young guy, into his football, played for a local team for years, I think.
Uh-huh. Loved hanging out with his friends, going to music festivals, socializing. Just doing what teenagers and young adults do.
Right. Physically, just for context, he was described as about 5'11", slim build, black hair, blue eyes.
Just a regular young man setting off on a trip that ended so tragically.
Okay, let's walk through the trip itself, Tenerife, and the events right before he disappeared.
So he was there for the NRG Music Festival. That's down in Playa de las Americas. It's a big tourist spot. He went with two friends.
And after the festival, on the night of June 16th, this is where things divert.
Yeah. He left with two men he'd met there. They went back to an Airbnb these guys were renting. One of them was later named as Ayub Kasim.
And this Airbnb, it wasn't nearby, was it? It was in Mosca.
Exactly. Mosca. It's a mountain village, about 35 kilometers, so roughly 22 miles north of Los Cristianos, where Jay was actually staying with his friends. It's pretty remote.
Yeah, famous for being beautiful, but really rugged, hard to get to, not on the main tourist trail at all.
Definitely not. It's known for these incredibly steep ravines, cliffs. It's tough terrain.
So the morning of June 17th, he leaves this Airbnb.
Right. And the last known person to actually see him was a woman named Ofelia Medina Hernandez. She owned a local cafe and villa there, Casa Abuelatina, near where he'd stayed.
What does she say?
She remembered driving past him that morning. She said he was walking fast. And crucially, she thought he was going the wrong direction if he was trying to head back south towards the resorts.
Okay. And that leads us to the phone call, the one that really raised the alarm.
Yes. Around 8:50 that morning, June 17th, he manages to call his friend, Lucy Mabel Law.
What did she tell her?
He said he was lost. Said he'd missed the bus, presumably back down from Mosca, and he's trying to walk back to Los Cristianos.
Which, as you said, is like a 10 or 11-hour walk through that kind of terrain.
It's a huge distance, yeah. Really difficult walking.
Yeah.
And the details he gave in the call were worrying.
Like what?
He told Lucy his phone battery was down to just 1%. He said he desperately needed water, and he mentioned he'd cut his leg on a cactus.
Gives you a sense of the environment already, doesn't it? Rough.
Definitely. And then the call just cut out, dropped.
And his last known location, they pinpointed that, right?
Based on his phone signal just before it died, and also a Snapchat photo he'd apparently posted earlier that morning. It put him in the rural Deteno National Park.
He tagged the location in the photo from a doorway somewhere.
That's right. And there was also mention of a video call he made to another friend, Brad Hargreaves. Brad apparently thought Jay might have slipped on some gravel during that call.
So the call to Lucy cuts out, and then...
He was reported missing almost immediately, like 9:04 a.m.,
Yeah.
just minutes after that call ended. His friends knew straight away he was likely in trouble.
Very quick reaction. Understandable, given what he'd said. So what did the initial search look like?
The Guardia Civil, the Spanish police force, they took the lead, and they launched a pretty expensive search right away.
In that area, Tenerife National Park.
Yes. And it's incredibly challenging ground, like we said. You've got really thick vegetation, steep ravines, some are thousands of feet deep, sheer cliffs. And the weather up there can change really fast. Blazing sun 1 minute, thick mist the next.
They threw resources at it from the start, though. Drones, dogs.
Oh yeah, drones, specialist sniffer dogs, helicopters, the works. They recognized the danger of the environment, him being alone, possibly injured.
And he was quickly classed as highly vulnerable.
Yes, a missing persons organization, SOS Desaparecidos. They flagged him as highly vulnerable pretty much straight away. That just underlines the immediate concern for his safety.
Did the search stay focused on that one area initially? I thought I read it moved at one point.
It did, briefly. There was some kind of potential lead, maybe an unconfirmed sighting, that made them temporarily shift focus down south, near Los Cristianos, where he was staying.
But that didn't pan out.
No, apparently it was quickly ruled out, and the main search effort went straight back north, to the Tenerife Park, really honing in on that last known location and specifically searching at least one massive 2,000-foot ravine.
What about the two guys he was with, the ones from the Airbnb where they looked at?
Yes, definitely. The investigation initially involved looking into the two British men he'd met and gone back to Alaska with, including this Ayub Qasim.
And what happened there?
The police questioned them, but later released a statement saying they considered them not relevant to Jay's actual disappearance. Those men then returned to the UK.
There was also that blurry CCTV image the family shared.
That's right. His family circulated some CCTV footage. It was quite blurry. Taken into a town called Santiago del Teide, maybe 10 hours after he vanished. They hoped it might be him.
Was it ever confirmed?
Not officially, no. The police never confirmed that the person in the footage was actually Jay.
And then there was that really strange, almost unbelievable twist where the search for Jay led to someone else being found.
Yeah, it's quite something, isn't it? Officers were out searching these ravines for Jay, and they literally stumbled upon a Scottish hiker. He'd also gone missing in the same general area.
Wow. Was he okay?
Yeah, thankfully he was found safe. But it just highlights how incredibly easy it is to get lost or into trouble in that specific bit of terrain, even if you're an experienced hiker, presumably.
So the search continued. They even brought in more specialist teams.
They did. They got specialist search dogs brought over from Madrid. But despite all these efforts, and local volunteers helping out too, about 30 or 40 people joined in around Moscow.
Nothing.
Nothing significant was found in those first couple of weeks. It was incredibly frustrating, obviously.
And then came that really confusing announcement about the search being stopped.
Right. On June 30th, which was almost 2 weeks after he disappeared, the Guardia Civil publicly stated they were discontinuing the active search operation.
That must have caused some backlash, stopping the search for a vulnerable missing person.
It definitely drew criticism, yeah. People questioned the decision. Why stop looking?
But then it turned out it hadn't actually stopped. It just went quiet.
Exactly. That came out later. The search did continue, but it was placed under a court order of secrecy.
Why? What was the reason given for that?
The official line was that they wanted to avoid curious onlookers, potentially interfering with the search efforts in those difficult areas. So they continued with what they called discreet searches.
Discreet searches, what did that involve?
It involved specialist mountaineers, apparently using tools like machetes to hack through the really dense undergrowth in places that were basically inaccessible during the wider initial search.
That secrecy, whether it was intended to help or not, it definitely fueled some of the online theories later, didn't it? Lack of transparency.
It certainly became a point of discussion, especially compared to very public searches like Nicola Bulley's back in the UK. But anyway, after weeks of this difficult, sometimes secret, searching, there was finally a development.
A discovery.
Yes, tragically. On July 15th, that's 29 days after he first went missing, Spanish police reported that they had found human remains within the search zone.
And where exactly were they found? Was it close to where they thought he might be?
It was in a place called the Juan Lopez Ravine, which is a deep valley, quite near his last known phone location, about 10 kilometers inland from the coast.
And they found his belongings nearby.
Yes, his possessions and his clothing were found with the body.
How quickly could they confirm it was Jay?
They used DNA fingerprinting. The High Court of Justice of the Canary Islands confirmed the identity following a preliminary autopsy.
And getting him out of there, that wasn't easy either.
No, because the terrain was so inaccessible, they had to use a helicopter to recover the body from the ravine.
What did the initial autopsy in Spain say about the cause of death?
The preliminary findings suggested it was consistent with an accidental fall. A plunge from height was the phrase used, I think. They noted broken bones.
And then there was a second post-mortem back in the UK.
Yes. A more detailed examination was done in the UK. That concluded he died from traumatic head injuries, and importantly, it also found these injuries were consistent with a fall from height.
And the UK report added a really specific, heartbreaking detail about how quickly it happened.
Yes. It indicated that due to the severity of those head injuries, his death would have been instantaneous.
Instantaneous?
Yeah. The body also showed signs you'd expect from being exposed to a warm environment for that long, nearly 4 weeks.
So the official conclusion seems pretty clear. A tragic accident, a fall in treacherous terrain.
That's the official finding, yes. But other details have emerged since then, particularly through the UK inquest process, that add layers and, frankly, more questions.
Right, the inquest. That's the legal inquiry into the death, set for next year, May 2025. But some information has come out already.
Yeah, in preliminary hearings. And one of the big things revealed was the toxicology report.
Okay, toxicology, that's testing for drugs or alcohol in the system.
Exactly. And in Jay's case, the tests found MDMA, that's ecstasy. They found a metabolite of cocaine, which means cocaine had been processed by his body, and alcohol.
So those were definitely in his system.
Likely consumed sometime in the 24 hours before he died, they think. Interestingly, the Spanish autopsy also detected ketamine, but the UK tests couldn't confirm that one, maybe because of the time lapse, the body's condition. It's hard to say.
But having those substances present, it raises that unavoidable question, doesn't it?
It does. The huge, perhaps unanswerable question. Was he actually under the influence of these substances at the moment he fell? It could potentially explain disorientation, poor judgment, but we just don't know for sure if that was the case at that exact time. It's a critical missing piece.
And the inquest is also having trouble getting hold of key people who were with him.
That's been reported, yes. Efforts to find his friends, Lucy Law and Brad Hargreaves, to give evidence at the inquest. Apparently, UK authorities haven't been able to locate them.
And what about Ayub Qasim, the guy who rented the Airbnb?
He also seems to be missing, or at least unreachable for testimony, which is significant, as he might have been one of the last people to see Jay before he left that morning.
The coroner running the inquest, they weren't happy about this.
No, the senior coroner expressed quite a bit of frustration. Mentioned it's often hard to get witnesses for inquests, but specifically said cooperation tends to drop off when drugs are involved in a death investigation.
Jay's dad has spoken about this too, hasn't he?
Yes, Warren Slater. He's emphasized how important he feels those missing testimonies are, hoping they could shed some light on Jay's final hours, what state he was in, maybe why he left the Airbnb.
There was also testimony from someone else who met Jay out there, wasn't there? A Josh Forshaw.
Yes. He testified he met Jay, described him as super happy, but also said he seemed under the influence of drugs at a party. But Forshaw also made some quite serious allegations.
About a watch.
He alleged Jay was involved in stealing a Rolex watch, apparently worth about 12,000 euro.
Wow. Okay, and there was something else connected to that, something about knives.
Yeah, this was quite alarming. Forshaw testified about seeing messages related to selling this watch, and he said Jay sent a photo showing knives tucked into his trousers.
With the caption.
With the caption, "In case it goes off."
In case it goes off? What does that even mean? Did the inquest look into that?
They did. A Detective Chief Inspector, Rachel Higson, testified. She said while she didn't know the phrase personally, colleagues, especially from the Blackburn area in Lancashire where Jay was from, confirmed it is known slang there.
Slang for what, though?
Well, the implication would be trouble, a fight, something kicking off. But the specific intent behind Jay using it in that message with that photo, that remains unclear, uncertain.
And Jay's mom, Debbie Duncan, she spoke out about some of the online rumors, too.
Yes, she dismissed a lot of the speculation that was flying around online during the search as completely unfounded. Mentioned one specifically about a watch strap calling it rubbish.
So these inquest details, the drugs, these allegations from Forshaw,
Yeah.
they add complexity, definitely, even if they don't change the ultimate finding of an accidental fall.
Exactly. They add layers to the context, raise questions about the hours leading up to his disappearance, but don't fundamentally contradict the medical evidence of how he died.
This case, though, the attention it got, it felt different, more intense than many other missing person cases recently.
Oh, absolutely. It blew up. Massive interest in the UK, but internationally, too. People were drawing comparisons to really huge cases like Madeleine McCann or Nicola Bulley.
And with that attention came, well, the dark side of the internet, didn't it?
It really did. Social media just exploded. You had armies of armchair detectives, as people call them, spreading just wild speculation.
What kind of stuff?
Oh, everything. Really fantastical tales, as one report put it. Mafia theories, drug gangs, people connecting dots about his past that weren't necessarily connected, often without any real evidence.
And the impact that had on his family must have been just horrific while they're waiting for news.
Unimaginable. They had to deal with outright lies, incredibly cruel stuff online, fake recordings claiming to be him screaming, fake kidnapping messages sent directly to his mom,
That's monstrous.
trolls targeting them relentlessly. Someone even set up a fake social media account pretending to be Brad Hargreaves' late mother to attack them. Jay's mom described it as being terrorized online.
There was also that GoFundMe page, which raised a lot of money.
Yeah, a big campaign raised over £70,000, I think.
Yeah.
Apparently it was set up initially without his mom knowing to fund private search efforts. Eventually, the money went towards funeral costs.
And even the funeral was targeted.
Scammers tried to cash in, yeah, offering fake links to live streams of the service. Just awful.
The media also reported on Jay's past run-in with the law. Did that feed into the online stuff?
It definitely seemed to. News outlets reported on his conviction from 2021. It was related to a gang attack where someone was badly hurt. He got a community order for violent disorder.
And how did that play out online?
Some people online latched onto that. You saw comments, particularly on platforms like Reddit, talking about karma, using really nasty language about him and his family. Some suggested this past maybe made people less sympathetic or even influenced the level of attention. It's complex, but yeah, his past was definitely part of the online narrative, and the mainstream media did report it.
Did anyone official speak out against all this online behavior?
Yes, the CEO of a missing persons charity, LBT Global, was quite blunt, called the social media speculation cruelty, and said the impact on the family was devastating.
It really makes you think about the wider issue, how missing people are covered in the media generally. We looked at that Reuters Institute report on this.
Yeah, that report raises some important points. It talks about something called missing white woman syndrome.
Explain that.
It's this observed tendency in media coverage focusing much more heavily on missing white women and girls, especially if they're from middle-class backgrounds, compared to other missing people.
And Jay's case, although he was a young white man, definitely got that kind of saturation coverage that's actually quite rare overall. The report contrasts this with the stats.
The statistics are pretty striking. For instance, black people are significantly overrepresented in missing person figures in the UK. About 14% of those reported missing, compared to making up only around 4% of the population.
But they often get less media attention?
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
And they're statistically less likely to have their case flagged as high risk by police, even when maybe the circumstances suggest it should be.
The report gave an example, didn't it? Comparing Nicola Bulley's case.
Right, the huge, almost celebrified attention on Nicola Bulley compared to someone like Fiona Holm. She was a mixed-race black woman, a mom of 4, had struggled with addiction. Her family pleaded for media help when she vanished, but her disappearance and subsequent murder trial got very little public attention in comparison.
Why does that happen? Did the journalists in the report offer reasons?
They talked about things like, does the story have legs? Will it keep developing? Is there a strong element of mystery? Practical things, too, like, is there a good, clear photo available?
And maybe editors being wary of certain types of stories?
Yeah, sometimes being hesitant about stories seen as complex, maybe involving addiction or mental health or someone who's gone missing before, which unfortunately can mean more marginalized people get less coverage.
Thinking back to Jay's search specifically, that decision to make the search secret for a while, did that decision itself cause issues?
Well, it certainly led to debate. The Guardia Civil said it was to stop onlookers interfering. But the question is, did keeping it quiet actually fuel more conspiracy theories online because people didn't know what was happening? Especially when you compare it to very public, open searches like Nicola Bulley's. It raised questions about transparency.
And also the fact it took 29 days to find him, even with that huge initial search, in that specific ravine.
It's a valid point. Given the intensity of the early search, people asked if the initial efforts might have somehow missed him in that incredibly dense terrain. It's possible, given how tough the environment was.
Have the police commented on that? On why it took so long?
Not in detail. The Guardia Civil basically said their investigation process doesn't involve releasing those kinds of operational details. So that question kind of hangs there.
Okay. Let's try and summarize where we are with this. It's been a lot to cover, a really complex, sad story.
Yeah. So the core facts we know. Jay Slater vanished after leaving that Airbnb in Masca, a remote part of Tenerife. He tried to walk back a huge distance, made that distressed call with his phone dying.
And was found almost a month later in the Juan Lopez ravine, near where his phone last pinged.
Exactly. The official cause of death, an accident, traumatic head injuries from a fall, believed to be instantaneous. Toxicology found drugs, MDMA, cocaine metabolite, alcohol, but whether they caused the fall isn't confirmed.
But alongside those facts, there are still these frustrating gaps and complexities.
Definitely. We don't know exactly what happened in those final hours before the fall. The full story behind that alleged Rolex theft, the knives photo, the slang phrase, it's murky.
And crucially, those key witnesses, his friends Lucy and Brad and Ayub Qasim from the Airbnb, they haven't been reachable for the UK inquest. That leaves big holes in understanding his state of mind, his plans.
Huge gaps. And beyond the specifics of the case itself, it really shone a spotlight on some bigger themes, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That intense public interest. It showed how powerful it can be, maybe even helpful in raising awareness initially, but also how incredibly harmful the speculation and online trolling became for the family. Just devastating.
And it forces us to look at how missing persons cases are covered more broadly, the disparities in attention, the challenges families face when their private tragedy becomes public property.
Plus, just the sheer danger of that environment. The difficulty of the search.
It's a tragedy on multiple levels. The loss of a young life, obviously paramount, but also the questions it raises about how we as a society engage with these stories now.
So, a final thought to leave people with.
Maybe this. As you think about Jay Slater's story, consider the immense power and the potential danger of public attention and social media in these cases. How does our collective reaction, the way we consume and share information, actually impact the investigation? How does it impact the families who are just trying to cope? And maybe ask, what's our responsibility as the audience in all of that?